How's it going, everybody? We have an early blog for you today, and I do not think this is going to be a blog that is well received, nor should it be, probably. Let's talk about Overpowered. So, we already know what Overpowered is, so we're going to do a quick recap. I want to spend more of the time today talking about the impacts of Overpowered and how I will be approaching the game with this new progression path in play. So, quick recap. As Marvel Strike Force has evolved over the past 7 years, so too has the complexity of powering up your characters. Character level recently reached 105, Gear Tier 20, and Purple ISO 8, 4, and 5 will be released later this year. So there you go. Purple 4 and 5 confirmed to be released later this year. Maybe that's going to be another Odin-style mythical character release, just like we had Odin in between Mephisto and Professor X. We'll have somebody in between Professor X and Annihilus. Add in ability upgrades, combat modifiers, and game mode specific enhancements, and the power landscape has become more intricate than ever. That's where the new Overpowered system comes in. Why Overpowered? With so many layers of power progression, an unintended consequence has emerged. Character upgrades don't impact battles as much as they should. The hard-earned progress you make in leveling up, gearing, and enhancing ISO 8 doesn't always translate into meaningful advantages in combat. As a result, battle results don't always reflect the effort you put into improving your characters. This is only a half-truth. The reason the hard-earned progression doesn't feel super hard-earned at the later stages of the game is because everybody always has enough resources to max every character out. And that's kind of a cool thing because it makes it more of a strategic advantage. And then there's huge diamond implications that affect kind of balancing. But I guess some people feel like the diamond advantage, free to play might get a character at 4 stars on release, and by 6 months in, they can activate their diamonds, whereas Krakens get that diamonds right away. Apparently, some people feel those diamonds aren't a deciding enough factor. To help restore the significance of your character progression, we've designed Overpower, a system that ensures your progress matters more in battle. This doesn't require extra purchase or additional effort to acquire. It simply amplifies the power you've already built. Okay, so speaking of what I just said, how it appears like the diamond advantage isn't enough, but everyone kind of has every other character in the same build. We all bring them up to 105, the newest team. We put them at Gear 219. We do the T4s. I know that's not true for everybody, Purple ISO 8 as well. I know that's not true for everybody maxing out every new character, but trust me, there is a huge group of endgame players, free to play all the way to Kraken, that can and do that with every new character. The reason this would become a big spending advantage is because every time they introduce a new gear tier, a new level cap, or a new purple ISO, Overpower will come into effect. They're going to explain a little bit later, but I just wanted to explain why I compared it to the diamonds not being a big enough advantage. This is going to be a big spender progression boost. Battle boost for your roster. The Overpower system provides extra combat bonuses to characters when they face an opponent with a lower Overpowered rank. Whether attacking or defending, the best part, it's automatic. If you've already been powering up your roster, many of your characters will immediately gain Overpowered ranks at launch. See, this is... I want to be as charitable as possible, but I feel like this is just a Trojan horse. This is like a flowery way of saying nothing changes right now, but guys, every single time a new gear tier gets released and people just buy their way to the gear tier, this is an insane overcorrection. Every time there's a new level cap and somebody levels the next 5 levels in the first 2 hours and they max out all their characters because they have 2 billion gold saved up, it's a giant imbalance. So it's really going to separate spenders and non-spenders more than ever before, which, oh man, I don't know, maybe I'm just tired. I'm burnt out of doing all this super hardcore PvP in the game. I'm kind of just over it. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll have a lot of fun playing with everyone else anyway. Not everyone's going to feel that way, and probably rightfully so. Let's go over this anyway, though. Key benefits. Restores the impact of character progression in battle. Unlocks new layers of strategy with additional combat and stat bonuses. We do not know any combat bonuses yet, unless they've added some. We only know a stat bonus, 50% damage. That's not strategy. That's straight blunt power. It's not strategy at all. Automatically scales as you continue investing in your characters. Easier character progression comparison as it's summarized into a single score. Okay, how Overpowered works. At launch, Overpower will feature 12 ranks with temporarily locked ranks that become available in future updates. Characters automatically unlock these ranks by reaching specific milestones in character level, gear tier, and ISO 8. No additional purchases or separate progression paths are required. Expect more ranks to be added in the future as the game continues to progress. Overpowered ranks at launch 1 through 12. You can see the various stages at which you unlock an Overpowered rank. They start at level 90 and gear tier 17. and then it's basically blue level 3, and basically every single what I would call expansional increase, so 5 levels, 1 tier of blue ISO, 1 gear tier, you're gonna get another overpowered rank. So what's overpowered in combat gonna do? During battle, overpowered activates when the character with a higher overpower rank engages a lower ranked opponent. The system does not activate or provide any bonuses with 2 characters have the same overpower rank. Importantly, overpower does not change a character's power level number. It only enhances combat performance. That's right. So although you might be going in with a bunch of gear tier 19 characters into a gear tier 20 character, and it looks like it's going to be just a slight punch up, no. They're going to show it's going to be 50% increased damage unless they change that. And you're going to be caught unaware. You're going to get absolutely owned. I think this is actually going to, for a lot of uninformed players, it's actually going to make their experience not what they expect when they enter combat, which I don't think is something that Scopely strives for. Overpower bonuses. Overpower will eventually introduce 3 tiers of combat bonuses. 2 of these tiers will not be available at the launch of Overpowered. Before we dive into the details of the bonuses, let us summarize the intentions. See, when you have to justify yourself this much, it means you know this is not well received right now, and you're pushing it through anyway. Tier 1 bonus. A modest but meaningful boost to a character's power. You'll see this bonus when one character is at a maximum progression and is fighting a character that's behind in one area. As in most common situations, it shouldn't be a giant bonus, but it should feel good if you've just upgraded a character level 105 and are fighting someone that's still level 100, for example. It's not just fighting a character that's level 100. It's also fighting a character that's level 104, right? So let's be real about that. Gear tier, it's like if you're gear tier 20 and you're hitting somebody who's gear tier 19, but they have 5 out of their 6 pieces equipped, you're still going to have the overpowered bonus. So it's not as simple as being like a full progression path behind. Tier 2 bonus. A bigger bonus than tier 1. This will feel fairly strong in battle. A tier 2 bonus will most commonly when one character is at a maximum progression and fighting an enemy that is behind in 2 areas. Now this is true. So speaking of what I was talking about earlier, when I was saying right now, Overpower is not going to have this gigantic effect. Well, it kind of will because we're in the midst of the Gear Tier 20 release. Let's say this was released 2 months ago. Like I was talking about, there's a huge group of players at the end game that bring all their characters to 105, Gear Tier 19, Purple ISO 3 because they are in active endgame alliances, and you are, believe it or not, able to do that if you're farming the gold and training material nodes, you're hitting all your raids, getting your maximum resources, your alliances performing in those alliance events. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. It wouldn't be that big a deal. With Gear Tier 20 coming, Krakens are going to be up 1 tier bonus. When Tier 20 is kind of like nearing the end of its life cycle and we're able to more readily apply that to a lot of characters, when the end game people have Professor X essentially, they'll probably release Purple ISO 4 and 5, right? Because we just had level, it'll be year Purple ISO 4 and 5. So when Purple ISO 4 or 5 comes out, if you are then have a character that is level 105 but Gear Tier 19 and not Purple 4 or 5, and now somebody else has Gear Tier 20 and Purple 4 or 5, they're going to just dominate you by the sounds of it. If we can extrapolate what Tier 1 bonus does. All right, let's get Tier 3 bonus. The biggest bonus of the 3, this advantage will feel very powerful in battle. While a Tier 3 bonus won't overcome a bad matchup, it'll make a difference in most battles. The attacker must be 3 progression ranks ahead for this to kick in. So if you had a max progression character today, you'll need to fight someone that's behind in all 3 progression tracks. The situations won't be common, especially if you are prioritizing modes you want to be most competitive in, such as War and Cosmic Crucible. They haven't talked about it yet, but it's just going to be in PvP. We're going to get there in a second. Characters with 1 overpower rank higher, they're going to gain 50% damage. If you took part in the U32 and you saw that those rooms that gave 100% increased damage, or rather 50% less damage, you know how crazy this is as a modifier. 50% focus means you're going to land all your abilities all the time. It's like having a free skirmisher ISO. But 50% damage on certain characters, which we're going to go over, is absolutely nutty. To allow players time to adjust, only Tier 1 bonus will be active at launch. This provides an opportunity to evaluate the impact on battles for additional bonuses to become available in future updates. Yeah, they're pushing this forward, even though after the last strike spot, and they gave some information out on it, there was a huge backlash from a big part of the community. They're pushing this out anyway. I assume when this goes live, there's going to be even more backlash. There's going to be videos of content creators putting out of an endgame Thanos at Gear Tier 20 just wiping the entire enemy team in war or something crazy where you're using a very normal counter like, oh god, like Apocalypse, Red Hulk, and Hive Mind. You're using that against an Annihilator team. And all of a sudden the endgame Thanos is one-shotting everyone on the team, including Apocalypse. You'll see videos like that with this 50% damage. This is a giant increase in damage. Anyway. Okay, strategy is still key. Though impactful, this new Overpowered system won't replace synergies, character kit abilities, and counters, which are the backbone of Marvel Strike Force, so teams will still counter stronger teams in the right matchups and achieve exciting punch-ups during battle. I don't disbelieve this. The fact that there's no health here or armor here is huge, right? If you are on the attack and you're going into the right matchup, or you're on the defense, and they bring in a really stupid matchup, and your characters still get to go first, because there's no, like, defensive bonuses here, you can still absolutely get just crushed before you get a turn in. Because a big part of Marvel Strike Force is normally matches are decided by the winning team killing somebody on the enemy team, the MVP of that enemy team, before they get a turn. And that's not going to change. There's some characters, like Endgame Thanos I talked about, where that is just not true because it's a health trigger or there's some sort of moment where things go crazy. And I think that's going to be important to look at. Theory crafting, strategy, and learning about team counters will always remain a vital part of the game. Characters Overpowered will gain an advantage in battle, but depending on the matchups, Overpowered won't guarantee victory. Yeah, we just talked about that. Overpowered is also not a substitute for skillful team selection. Okay, well, European sim again. Once you are trying to justify yourself in 5 different sections of this blog before you give me information, tells me that you know you are on rocky footing here. Now, I think this is super unfortunate because this honestly feels just like the return to the stupid Captain Britain decision last year, where we just had a great anniversary month. Things are really looking up. People are having fun in the game more. Like, there's so many rewards. Like, the Command Center, though it's a little confusing right now, and it's just another place we have to go and keep track of things. Once that takes over for events, and they're just giving us these more rewards, like we have 3 places where we're getting Havoc Shreds right now. Like, the game feels good right now. But something like this, kind of poisoning the endgame community against each other, it's not good. The same thing with Captain Britain. Like they built up a little bit of goodwill. I don't think they built up the same amount of goodwill as they did last year, by the way. And they just throw it out the window. I don't understand the play here. Honestly, though, I didn't understand how impactful Overpowered was going to be when I first looked at it either. It's only when I like really sat down and thought it, I was like, oh wow. All right, Overpowered Unleashing PvP. At launch, Overpowered will be a exclusive to PvP game modes where roster investment truly shines. Alliance War, Cosmic Crucible, Arena, and Real-Time Arena. This, I think, is super unfortunate. Because it's like, okay, it's not going to work in raids, essentially, right? So it's not going to work in raids, which is the only place where it's you against the environment. So it's the least toxic place where we can give you the biggest benefit. Because if all the enemies at difficulty 5 are Gear Tier 19, but you put Gear Tier 20 on one of your characters, that's going to feel really good, right? So why exclude PvE and just put it on PvP where it's going to be the worst experience for people that are fighting up an Overpowered rank? In the future, Overpowered will expand to PvE game modes, but for now, it's time to harness your roster's full potential in PvP combat. Yeah, here's the thing. In the future, it'll expand to PvE game modes, tells me they will use Overpowered against us in the future, giving enemies 50% damage. And fine, you can do whatever you want in PvE because it's kind of tailored content around the tags of the teams we can use. There'll be an avenue to beat it. That's okay, because the other way they do that is they just scale the stats up behind the scenes, and we just don't know what's going on, right? So that's fine. But to not put it in now when it would benefit us in the Chaos Raids is kind of... especially when we talk about them recommending the Vigilante team for Professor X, Gear Tier 20. If your characters are to meet the milestones above, they'll instantly unlock Overpowered bonuses at launch, no extra rewards. Overpowered arrives on April 7th, so that is going to be next Monday. Continue to power up character, level, gear tier, and ISO 8 to receive day 1 benefits courtesy of this new system. So what I want to do now is I want to go in game. Alright guys, I quickly just want to go over my favorites to rush for Overpowered, but like we got to talk about some qualifiers here. We don't know what's going on with Professor X Saga. We don't know if we're going to get Gear Tier 20 if we finish the skills section early, so we may want to funnel all of our Gear Tier 20 into the city characters irregardless of Overpowered and how we think that's going to impact our PvP section. Or maybe we could skip the city section and start in city villain section, and so we can focus the really powerful cosmic villains. There's so much we don't know about Professor X Saga that does make this pretty horrible, so I'm just going to speak about this as if Professor X doesn't exist, but you should in your decision making remember Professor X exists, okay? It's the easier way for me to conceptually do this. Characters that have health triggers, or characters that go super fast, or characters that have out of turn damage are going to be insanely impacted by Overpowered. We'll break this down super quick. A character like Endgame Thanos, when he gets his health trigger, he does 400% piercing, add a 50% damage modifier into that. Hooey, that's going to super hurt. Not 450% damage, by the way. More like 600%. I don't know how it works out. He's going to hit super hard. We've seen what he does in Stage 1 of the U32, which is also Stage 1 of Season 14. So give him that 100% plus 50% on top of it by making him overpowered. Get wrecked. Mephisto. Now, Mephisto gets countered by Null, right? The thing about that is Mephisto, when he gets countered by Null, still gets this speed stat gain. So instead of doing his empowered attack, which when he's on defense does no damage, he instead does his special, and then he does his basic. So if he is overpowered, and you go in with Null to stop him, well, if he's got overpowered on you, he's doing 500% damage right away, plus 300% on his basic, because he basically laps people on a rebound chain. And because if he's on defense, you're going with a Null, you can't choose who the Mephisto hits, right? So you can have Gear 20 on your Null, go into a Gear 20 Mephisto, but that won't stop Mephisto from maybe just annihilating whoever is on Null's team. So those two characters already really invalidate that strategical thing that they kept saying was still going to be in play. I thought that was super funny when we started looking at some of these characters. Hank Pym, same sort of, it'd be getting a little bit too much into the weeds, but there is a certain matchup with Illuminati, Odin, and Null that is going to be prevalent in Season 14, Stage 4 of Crucible, where if Hank Pym gets a kill on an Echo, that's right, the Young Avengers Echo character, then Captain Britain calls an assist from Odin, and the burn attack it fails miserably, right? So the problem is, if you rush Hank Pym to have Overpowered, nobody's putting Overpowered on their Echo. Not yet, anyway. That's like a year-in thing for some Krakens to do eventually. So Hank is going to kill Echo 100% of the time because he can't get those death proofs on Echo anymore. That's bad, okay? That is super bad, and you're going to get absolutely demolished. So Gear 220 on Hank Pym for a Crucible defense team, as silly as that sounds, actually kind of clutch here. All right, so those are sort of a couple of the defensive nightmares. Okay, Odin is a nightmare on no matter what side he's on. If he gets his battlefield effect up, you're wrecked. On the defensive side, if he gets his battlefield effect up, a lot of our current strategies have us survive to the point where he actually uses his charges. But when he has Overpowered, good luck surviving through the 5 charges and him using his ultimate. I think you're just going to die. I really do. I think you're just going to die, and it's going to suck. And it sucks to suck. It sucks to not spend as much as other people do, especially because Odin's going to be like the first character most people Gear 20 on. As you see, he's the first character I'm trying to put Gear 20 on. Let's talk about some more fun things, though, some offensive options. So Kahori, obviously, if she doesn't have people stopping her speed bar, her passive, and then her 2 opening attacks with 50% increased damage is going to be crazy. Blade is such an interesting character because he is already one-shotting a lot of big names. If you throw Overpowered on him and he's hitting into Gear 219 characters, sorry, if you put Gear 220 on him and he's hitting into Gear 219 characters with that Overpowered effect, it's going to be super efficient, really fun, and there is the benefit, like we talked about earlier, but I don't want to get too far into it. City section, Professor X, these are going to be 2 characters that are a lock, because although Scopely has suggested we bring the Vigilante team in, I hate this team. This team is not good on offense. That's not entirely true. This team is okay on offense if you are a new or mid-game player who's just kind of working their way up. All right, I'm kind of taking too long here. I would much rather have Captain Sam over Punisher just from a PvP perspective, because there is a matchup where Captain Sam on his ultimate, if he had Overpowered and the enemy didn't, would one-shot the entire team and would really solidify that counter, and then I would have that going forward because the enemy team he does it on would not have Gear 220 for quite a long time in most situations. Lilandra Gear Tier 20 is a no-brainer to me. You have to do her Professor X, and her having Overpowered on some enemies might actually make the Star Jammers usable. So she was one person that I rushed. Old Man Logan, you see I have Old Man Logan as a skirmish right now. I'm finding he is having a hard time landing his debuffs. If he gets that 50% focus from being overpowered on his enemies, first time I would lean into that focus, that could be really, really good. Omega Red Phoenix Force, for the same reason why Hank Pym would kind of crush the counter into Odin Illuminati, having Overpowered on your Omega Red hitting into enemy Illuminatis would be really, really helpful. Hugely helpful. And then I have Punisher done. Okay, Null, obviously, he's a great character. Same as like Mephisto and Odin. I have my Punisher done. The reason I did Punisher is because I had ranked top 1,000 in the last leaderboard. Gave me 200 gear tier 20, which endgame Thanos and Elandra ate up 150 of those gear tier 20s. And then Punisher, he only cost 2. And so what I was able to get out of my Punisher already is I was able to use Punisher, Elandra, Thanos Endgame, Captain Sam America, and Black Knight. And I was able to one-shot the first skill node. I can throw that video up if you guys want. It's basically you just overpower it. I have 3 diamonds on all the characters except for the Landra. They were all Crimson geared. 3 of them were gear tier 20. It was still close, but I got it done, and it saves me energy, so that's good. Anyway, these are my preliminary thoughts. Let me know what your preliminary thoughts are on characters that you might now rush to gear tier 20, irregardless of the Professor X, or is that just a stupid thing to even do? A lot of people like the PvP here. I know that the rewards in winning your PvP matchups are nowhere near as beneficial as the rewards to, say, getting Professor X like 2 weeks early. If you bring in the wrong character, you have to wait till you get a different character. I know that, but is there anybody that you are dreading to face on the defense if they have Overpowered on you? Let me know in the comment section below. But as always, guys, stay happy, stay healthy, have yourselves a wonderful day. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.